The last thing that I wanted to do when I got home from work yesterday was cook. I was tired, but I powered through it. I made myself a cup of coffee because I knew that if I didn't, I wouldn't have lunch to take with me to work for the next 3 days. And I don't want to get stuck ordering DoorDash or get going through a drive-through and paying for subpar food. So I'm making two kinds of chicken and pita bread. I'll start with the pita bread because although it's so easy, it does take the most time to prep. We need 2 cups of all-purpose flour, 2 packets of active dry yeast. It can be any brand of active dry, but I like Fleischmann's. We'll mix that up, and then I'm going to take 2 cups of water, pop it in the microwave for like 30 seconds just so that it's warm, not hot. Hot water will kill the yeast, just barely warm. Now, if you saw my measuring cup, the handle has broken off of it long ago. My measuring cups all come from the dollar store. You don't need Williams-Sonoma, $26, rosewood and gold trimmed handled measuring cups. The prettier and fancier your tools look, the less likely you are to use them. You can get a lot of great tools, start with them at the dollar store, things like measuring cups and whisks and silicone spatulas, and you can start to build your wardrobe of tools and gadgets slowly. So this is so easy. This is the starter for our pita. It's 2, 2, and 2. 2 cups of flour, 2 cups of water, and 2 packets of the 7 grams of active dry yeast. A quick mix, nothing serious, just trying not to leave any huge clumps of dry flour, but if there's lumps, that's okay. Cover it up with a tea towel or plastic wrap or foil or whatever. And just set that aside at room temperature for 10 minutes. Enough time for us to prep a cucumber salad. I used a vegetable peeler to peel my cucumber. I used an English cucumber, so it's a little bit longer. If you're using a regular cucumber, you might need a cucumber and a half to make the amount that I did. I cut it long, like into slices, how you'd cut a banana, and then I cut each slice into thick chunks. As always, when I'm cooking in the kitchen, I have some container that I've lined with a plastic grocery bag or produce bag, and I use that for my food scraps. That way I'm not running to the trash can all the time. I put the cucumber into a bowl along with about 2/3 of a cup of sour cream. Now, you can totally use yogurt, Greek yogurt. Don't use sweet yogurt, obviously. The Fage brand is the best brand. It's far superior to Chobani or any store brand of Greek yogurt. If you can't afford Fage, I encourage you to use sour cream. Trader Joe's tzatziki sauce uses sour cream. So try it. It's going to taste superior to cheap brands of Greek yogurt. And then I also put about a teaspoon of garlic powder. If you would like to use thinly, very finely diced fresh garlic, be my guest. I was too tired for that. I just used some garlic powder. I also used about a teaspoon of Walmart brand freeze-dried, finely, it's like a fine powder of mint. That costs $1.28 at my local Walmart. If you're not 100% sure that you're set on Greek-style cucumber salad, don't buy that. Just at your Walmart garden section, just find a mint plant and take 10 leaves of mint. Just on your way out the door, just pinch it off like you're smelling it. Oh, that smells nice, and walk out with it. And then just finally, very finely, chop it up and put it in this. And if you like it, then you can go back and spend $1.28 on the freeze-dried mint leaves, or you can buy fresh leaves. It's up to you. I also squeezed in about a teaspoon worth of lemon juice, and not pictured, but I did throw in about half a teaspoon of sugar. And did I say salt? I put in about a teaspoon of salt. Now, if you didn't want to do this, you could totally just buy, I can never say this word, tzatziki sauce. You could do that if you wanted to. you'll still be better off buying it than you would, eating a totally outside meal. I chopped up one um, red onion there, you saw. I also have in a plastic bag something that I cut up over the weekend. I got a sale on four color peppers. So that was the equivalent of about two bell peppers. Those were a wide cut. I also have boneless, skinless chicken thighs. Today I'm cooking 8. 4 are being cut up for the first kind of chicken, and 4 for the second flavor of chicken. After cutting up all of my chicken, and I did use gloves while I did that. Obviously, I washed my hands again after that, cleaning up that area. I'm coming back to check on my pita bread. My yeast had plenty of time to rise, so I added 3.5 cups of flour, 3 tablespoons of oil, 1.5 to 2 teaspoons of salt. I used my wooden spoon to scrape down the sides of the bowl and get any bits of flour. Eventually, I did go in with a gloved hand and knead this for about 5 minutes. It's a really good arm workout. I covered this again with my tea towel. It's going to need about an hour. You can let it sit for like an hour to even up to 2 hours. And I am going to let that sit for a good hour because hubby made us this nice dinner of completely appetizers. Wings, pot stickers, onion rings, carrot sticks, celery sticks. That was nice. So we ate that. We watched a movie. I forgot to say that I had put my chicken in the fridge during that time that we were eating our dinner. Wrapped it and covered it. Okay, so in hot pan, olive oil, I added my onions. I let them saute for about a minute, minute and a half to soften up. Then I added my chicken. Notice that my saute pan is big enough that it can hold 4 chopped up chicken thighs and a full onion. And I can move it around and it still is not going to be like every piece of chicken is making contact with the surface of the bottom of the pan. If you don't have a pan big enough for that, you need to cook it in batches. I'm now using the Badia Za'atar seasoning. I'm going to tell you more about this in a minute. This costs $2.48 at my local Walmart. I would say that the ingredients aren't the highest quality that you could possibly find, but this is $2.48. Again, I'll talk more about that in a minute. I use the equivalent of about 4 teaspoons of that Za'atar seasoning. It really has almost no salt in it, so I did need to add about a teaspoon of salt. Now, this is optional. You may not find that you need this. I need a little bit more heat, a little bit more kick. And so I added the equivalent of about a teaspoon of red pepper flakes. And I'm also adding about a teaspoon of black pepper. Again, those measurements are based on having 4 chicken thighs here. Za'atar seasoning is the Badia brand. I think it's a great place for people to start if they're not really familiar with so-called ethnic cuisine. If you even think of calling it ethnic cuisine, like everybody has an ethnicity. Like Irish food is ethnic food, German food is ethnic food. So, like if you want to get technical, Belgian waffles are ethnic food. So if you still are thinking of it as ethnic food, you may not have as much familiarity with it. So I would encourage you to dip your toe into so-called ethnic food slowly. Don't spend a ton of money on seasonings. Like I said, this Badia Za'atar brand, it's actually a fantastic deal. They use a really high quality wild thyme, and they also use sumac, which is not exactly cheap. And it just gives the most fantastic aroma to the whole kitchen, and it tastes fantastic. If you love like a Greek fast food, if you have a Greek what they call them, gyro places, gyro, I know it's pronounced gyro, but if you've tried those and you just had something that tasted amazing, you're like, oh my god, what does that taste? It might have been Za'atar seasoning. Now, if you decide that you really like this flavor, then you may be open to spending just a little bit more money and perhaps driving a little bit more out of your way to go to a Middle Eastern grocery store and purchasing an actual Middle Eastern brand of Za'atar seasoning. My favorite brand is Adonis, and they have 4 types. One is Palestinian style, one is Jordanian style, one is Aleppo style, that I think that's Syrian, and then one is it Lebanese or Iraqi style? I can't remember. But they're all really, really good. They are a couple dollars more than the Badia brand. They use higher quality ingredients, honestly. But that does, I mean, you're spending double, right? So I recommend just make sure that you actually do like the taste of it, but I'm like 99% sure that you will really like it. I'm a big fan of not spending money on individual spices. If you're a newbie at cooking and you're building up a spice wardrobe, spices absolutely do have a shelf life. They have an expiry date. They do get old and stale. And so, if you can find a seasoning blend that you really like, that you can get a lot of mileage out of, that has high quality ingredients and it tastes really good and it's a good price, then you're a lot more likely to use it and to use it up completely before it goes stale and get your maximum bang for your buck. Now, I've only added my bell peppers once my chicken had completely cooked because I don't want to cook them like all the way through. I don't want them to get mushy. I just want them to soften a little bit, and that'll enable them to take in some of the flavor of the oil we have here in the pan. The kitchen was smelling fantastic by this point. I've noticed that there seems to be a gender war playing out among people who are lower income, with men saying, cooking is women's work, and women almost being proud that they don't have basic like kitchen skills because they have been told that some man is going to come in and abuse them just for having that knowledge. How is a man going to come into your life at all if you don't let him in? I, I don't understand why you wouldn't want those skills for yourself. Here's in a glass bowl. Here is the other 4 boneless, skinless chicken thighs that we cut up into bite-sized pieces. I've added about 3 teaspoons of the Shan, Shan, brand tandoori seasoning mix. Tandoori, Tandoori. I also added in about a teaspoon and a half of olive oil, about a teaspoon of salt, and I also added in about a teaspoon and a half of Texas Pete hot sauce. It's the vinegar that's in that hot sauce that's going to help break down the chicken a little bit and let the seasonings, the spices, um, like penetrate into the chicken. I'm just using a gloved hand. I always use gloved hands anytime I touch chicken. I don't think we should be touching bear meat anytime if we can avoid it, especially chicken and pork. But yeah, I've noticed that among men who like are in my circle, cooking And having cooking skills is like a point of pride for a lot of men. And it's like the new upper class hobby, especially for men. It's a sign that you have a lot of money, you have a lot of free time. And because so many poor people no longer have those skills, it's one of the ways that people, the new upper class, can set themselves apart. Throughout history, rich people have always been looking for ways that they can set themselves apart. Have you ever heard someone say, "Oh, by the way, this is me using Autoban diluted to manufacturer directions to sanitize my counter"? This is my Za'atar chicken, which I'm divided up into portion-sized bags to take for lunch. This is that same pan I'm going to fry up some halloumi cheese. But throughout the ages, um, wealthier people have always looked for ways that they can set themselves apart. And since more and more people who are lower income don't have the ability, the knowledge, maybe the time to cook, it's increasingly becoming a wealthy man's hobby. It's just like how there was a point in history where having a car meant you had money. Well, now if you travel around upper class neighborhoods, what do you see people doing in the evenings, especially in the weekends with their children? It's riding around on a bicycle. And now running, walking, or riding around on a bicycle is a sign that you have the free time to ride a bicycle, which in the past, a bicycle might have meant that you were poor. So this is my dough. I've just turned it out onto parchment paper. That way I can avoid getting any flour onto my or dough onto my counter. I've divided my dough into 12 parts by dividing it into half, each of those halves into half, and then each of those quarters into thirds. And this is something a 5-year-old could do. Of course, this is a new, clean, fresh glove. I'm rolling the dough into itself. And this is going to form a tight ball. Right now, I'm only going to cook 4 of the pitas because 2 for each person, 2 for me, 2 for Eric. And the rest are going to be divided 4 and 4 into 2 Ziploc bags. I've used small pieces of parchment paper to separate them so they won't touch and stick together. And these will stay just fine for up to 2 more days in the fridge. And that way, in the morning, as I'm getting ready, I can just pan fry 4 pitas. But right now, I'm going to make 4. This is my halloumi cheese. I didn't rinse out my pan that I used to make my Za'atar chicken. I'm just going to fry up this halloumi cheese. This is perfect for pan frying. If you can't find halloumi cheese, I found this one at Trader Joe's. You can find it at any Middle Eastern market. The other thing you can do is look in the Hispanic cheeses section of your local Walmart, and they probably have a brand of cheese called Tropical, and there's something called queso de freír. Queso de freír, that means cheese of frying. It's almost exactly the same thing, and it costs less. So feel free to use that instead. And as you can see, this cheese doesn't really melt. It just gets a nice crispy grilled sear on it, which tastes absolutely delicious. This is my rolling pin I brought back with me from India. And you can really use any rolling pin, but a thin one like I have is going to give you the most precision when rolling out pita like this. You want to do it gently because that will prevent you from getting any tears in the dough. If you have tears, it will still cook up nicely, but the tear will cause steam to escape, and then you won't get a pocket that forms in the dough, which is fine. You'll just end up calling it flatbread, and not pita bread because it won't have a pocket in it. You may find that it takes you a little practice to roll it out just right, gently, without tears, so that you don't get holes, so that you will get a pocket. I'll show you in a moment. Now you see that ball that's forming there? That indicates to me that this is going to be a perfect pita with a pocket. If you do see a tear, one way that you can deal with it is you'll see a tear because you'll see steam, kind of like a kettle, just like steaming out. So you can just stick your just like use your spatula to like press on that steam part, and it will kind of seal it back up. See, there are my perfect pita pockets. All right, and lastly, I'm just cooking up my tandoori, or that's like barbecue, Indian barbecued seasoned chicken. So what I'll do with the pitas is for one day or for a couple meals, Eric and I will stuff our pitas with the Za'atar seasoned chicken with fresh baby spinach and the cucumber salad. And then for the next couple of meals, we will stuff our pitas with the tandoori seasoned chicken, probably more baby spinach, and the cucumber salad, which also goes phenomenally well with that Indian barbecue chicken. This is not a big investment. Like I said, the Za'atar seasoning of the Badia brand at my local Walmart costs $2.48. If you want to try the Shan, S-H-A-N brand of tandoori seasoning, that's probably going to set you back about anywhere from $1.50 to $2 at your local Indian store. My husband and I will each get 2 meals out of each of those 2 flavors of chicken. If you are a man, I strongly encourage you to cook at home if you're not already doing so. It is not woman's work. If anything, it is becoming more manly by the day to say that you are a good cook. It's also a sign potentially that you are part of the new upper class as a man. If you are a woman, please make sure that you are not allowing pseudo-feminists to make you feel triggered at the idea of cooking. Nobody says you have to cook for a man. If you want to, lie. Just don't tell anybody that you know how to cook. Say, oh, I ordered this from DoorDash. Oh, my mom made this for me. Whatever, I don't care. You don't have to tell anybody that you can cook. If you're really that afraid of a man using you for your resources or your talents, just don't tell anybody. But you have control over that. Like, you can be a bomb-ass cook and just be like, yeah, I'm not cooking for you. I only cook for myself. But don't self-handicap just because you have a fear of being taken advantage of by a man. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.